All right, and we are live once again. Our Wednesday night stream, two guys and a bard, sitting back, having a few drinks with the friends. So please feel free to pour yourself a drink and come hang out. Why don't we start with the usual? What is everyone drinking tonight?
Beer.
Super. Let's hear it. Beer. What kind of beer?
Yingling.
All right. East Coast beer.
Lager. Yep.
All right.
All right. I followed Super because Super's such a trendsetter, and you can't really tell here, guys, but I am drinking the Petite Prince from Jester King Brewery.
Dude, wait. Can you turn that logo a little more? I like that. That's cool. That dude.
No, it's their logos are always fire. Let's see if I can get like a really good shot here for you guys.
That's like I could see that being like
a fire logo.
Yeah, that's like it's like kind of creepy, kind of not. That weird circus thing. Yeah, 100%. And I made a cocktail which is brown rice. Thanks for the resubscription. I made a cocktail that is rye whiskey, grapefruit, Luxardo, which is kind of like a cherry liqueur, and lavender bitters. It's my spin on a Hemingway daiquiri, but obviously using whiskey instead. But all right,
we're using the wiki. We're using the wiki today.
Using the wiki. Whiskey. Yeah, I'm already drunk, guys. Sorry.
We really shouldn't start prepping for these shows 3.5 hours early.
Yeah, Jesus.
Bad one.
Like, let's show up 30 minutes early, start drinking, get everything flowing, and then we showed up like 2 hours early tonight. Like,
yeah. I mean, we were in and out, getting stuff done. We weren't drinking the whole time. I think we all had our drinks about half an hour beforehand. But yeah, just get the feel of the show going, get the flow going, make everything feel good. But all right, so let's get into Ash's topics. I think the big news this week is the AMA, right? On Sunday, Steven Shreve sat down with Proto Bear from /R MMOs. And yeah, I mean, I think, in my opinion, it was obviously not necessarily targeted at hardcore Ashes of Creation fans, right? It was kind of, they had a good mix of more entry-level questions, kind of just providing information to people who don't already know it, as well as mixed in a few new things. What did you guys think about it?
I mean,
the fact that I was bitter that my question didn't get asked. Yeah, I know. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was. I mean, like you said, for people who've been following Ashes for a while now, it's a lot of it was questions that was very easily searchable on the wiki, or But I get it. It wasn't necessarily our target. He was trying to reach a broader audience. If he wanted to do an AMA with people who already knew a lot about the game, he would have done an AMA within the Ashes Reddit or within the Ashes Discord. So for what its purpose was, I think it went well. Just for me personally, it didn't really answer too many questions. There was some cool stuff we got out of it, though.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess let's jump right into that. I think let's start with this question. It was the question about when we were going to get orcs. And I thought this was super interesting because he kind of said, well, honestly, probably not for a little while. This is not their main focus right now, is getting the races out. It's not something that is necessary to test the rest of the content. But what he did say is they're spending a lot of time focusing on making very different character models. And honestly, to me, that's something I'm really glad to hear, because right now, I think the character models are the most lacking thing in terms of art. In terms of not necessarily art, but in terms of like how it looks. The characters themselves right now don't look that great. Some of the armor looks good, but the characters feel a little blocky and a little janky. And he said they're basically focusing on how the two orcs are very different. You've got your standard Renkai orcs, who are going to be your standard orcs, big hulking warriors. And then you've got the Vek, and he was saying, like, yeah, the Vek are going to have a very different gait to their walk. They're going to posture differently. They're going to look different in combat and in different situations when their characters are doing stuff. And to me, that was like, oh my God, like if that's how in depth they're going, this immersion is going to be fantastic. But what did you guys think about that?
I thought it was interesting that he brought up the Vec as being more goblin-esque rather than orc. And of course, my mind goes immediately to like Lord of the Rings, right? But
Yeah.
so I hope they smooth it over a little bit better than that. Those were just kind of a bunch of brain dead grunts. But something interesting. The what we know about the Vex so far, I have up on the wiki here, and each of the races has like their three kind of main words that kind of attribute to what they are. And Vec is celestial, purpose, and fate. So I find it kind of interesting that they're going to be more kind of goblin-esque, because I don't think of those three words when I think of a goblin, but it's
Well, what about this? So like in Lord of the Rings, right? The orcs are descended from elves.
yeah.
So what if it is like this orc that's kind of halfway in between elf and orc?
Yeah, no, I can see that. Yeah, like it's been bred. Maybe when we left Vera eons ago, they kind of crossbred a little bit, little orc loving, and we end up with these guys now.
Yeah, I mean in D&D, which obviously Ashes of Creation is pretty based off of, there's half races all over the place. We have yet to hear anything about that, but maybe it's just kind of like all the races are this kind of mix, and nothing is too set in stone.
What happened is when a mommy dwarf and a daddy goblin love each other very much, or a daddy orc love each other very much, they create a goblin.
Yeah, this griffin flies in with a goblin baby.
But just real quick on the flip side, for the Renkai, honor, power, tranquility. So it's just it's interesting, just the direction that they're kind of going. Like even for the Renkai I mean, again, I don't think of orc and think honor, power, tranquility. That's
yeah. I mean power, but honor and tranquility.
Yes, yeah. Right. It's very samurai-esque. Even like some of the models that we have seen of the Renkai have been samurai-ish, and so it's an interesting take. But
well, it seems very much they're taking the races and modeling them after actual real life cultures more than they're modeling them after any kind of specific race within a fantasy setting. So yeah, like the Niku are very much Pacific Islanders, right? And so that's not something like the Pacific Islanders are actually huge people if you're thinking of the Samoans and all that. So yeah, you're not necessarily thinking about short little dwarves as Pacific Islanders, but that's what they're attributing it to, and that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how much lore kind of comes down to this. I think it's amazing, especially in a game that doesn't have different factions, to see a group of for all intents and purposes the same race. You're a human, you're an elf, you're an orc, you're a dwarf, and to see how they're going to give them such different and varying flavors, so to speak. And I like that a lot more than just paying lip service to, well, you're a human here, but you're kind of also a human over here. I think that's a really cool design choice. I'm really excited to see what it turns into.
Yeah, and then obviously the age-awaited question: what the fuck are Tolnar?
What are Tolnar? Are you guys gonna play a Tolnar? Do either of you want to play a Tolnar?
I don't know enough. Like it's intriguing to me, especially if there's some kind of like inbred corruption, like that just kind of comes with the race because they've been around this corrupted Vera for so long. That sounds super cool to me. Did you guys see that post that Ashes of Creation put out that was talking about basically your character starting to become corrupt? They're asking, do you accept the corruption, or is this the end, or what? Like that, I forget exactly what it was, but it made me like, I was like, all right, what is this in relation to? Because
it would be interesting to see in the quest lines. Sorry, go ahead, Super.
Going to say, it does say Tolnar are not a result of corruption.
Not a result.
They dodged it. They dodged the corruption. They were kind of like this before. They transformed. Yeah. Their result was because they were underground for so many hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah, I mean, I would say they're not a result of corruption, but it's got to have been a big part of their life, right? Because it was all around them. They spent a lot of time trying to hide from it, get away from it. So if that's
Sure.
like,
Yeah, like from like the base side, like if you just they might have been affected by the corruption over time, but what their what their original race is
Yeah.
not a result of
no.
corruption. They existed before the corruption.
But more what I'm thinking about is if it's a part of their culture, like, right? That's what is going to make the difference for me of whether I'm interested in a Tonar is what is their culture? How do they live their life? What are their three primary principles, right? We know nothing about that. Like right now, I'm leaning towards Vec just because I think that idea of celestial and purpose and fate, like that's awesome. Like I think that's really cool, especially in like a unique fantasy race.
And I think Renkai kind of hits different but similar chords for me. I mean, just a lot of the samurai-esque type of stuff. I mean, that's really cool. I mean, I'm as of right now planning on rolling tank right off the bat. So I want something that looks beefy, looks like it can take a hit, looks like a tank.
Are you sure it should be called tank though?
Don't even get me started on that. Like it was just they were doing so well. And then all of a sudden they're just like, we don't know what to call these guys. Let's just make them a tank. There are so many different names that they could have used for tank. And now, because the community's had so much backlash on it, I feel like Steven's just dug his feet in. He's like, I'm not changing it now. You're going to have to deal with it.
I mean, for me, it's just like, it's such a small thing. It really doesn't matter. In game, you're still going to call it, what tank are we bringing? Like you would have said that regardless of what the class or the archetype was called. So yeah, to me, like it just doesn't matter. I get like, yeah, I'm not like a fan of it. Like if they were to change it, I'd be like, okay, nice, but not something I'm gonna die on here.
It threw me off when I first like learned about Ashes right after the Kickstarter ended. Like I was like, oh, that must be placeholder. Like that's not, because it doesn't say DPS tank, DPS heals bard. Like
bard.
I'm like, tank. Yeah, like tank is just placeholder. They're figuring that out still. Nope, still tank.
Now here's a question that I've been asking a lot of people recently in the community, and I want to get your guys' feedback on this as well. When the game goes live, a year into the game, everyone's been playing, everyone's interacted with a lot of different people. Do you think that you will refer to somebody's class as they're a tank ranger? Or do you think you will refer to people as their actual specific class name?
So in my opinion, I think 64 classes is a lot. And yes, I'm going to call them classes. It is 64 classes. It's what the developers call it. We get that it's not like 64 completely unique classes. But I think, 64 things to remember is just going to happen naturally, especially with the commonly played ones, right? The ones that are like pretty common to run into. You're just going to naturally learn their names. I think it's just... but here's an interesting thing. Do you think the build within that class is going to be notated in some way? Because I think each potential 64 classes, between how you augment between things and build into different synergies, may be completely different from just that, from each part or each of the 64 classes, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, so like you look at Strider, for example, which is a ranger primary archetype and a fighter secondary. Someone's going to say, oh, we need a DPS. Okay, well, I'm talking to a Strider right now. Well, what's he spec'd as? And it might be like spec'd for long range with a lot of CC. Are they going to be spec'd for a little bit of long range, but mostly melee? What is that going to end up looking like? And so I agree with you on that. Like, you're a sword? You can go to Guild Wars 2, I think, talks about this a lot because your class is so different based on your weapon and you're built around your weapon. So, we're bringing a Revenant. Well, is it a Mace Shield Revenant? Is it a Great Hammer Revenant? What is it?
I mean, I think I mean, to the first question, I think it's going to be what people typically will do, and say, I mean, even in WoW, granted, there's not as many different variations, but somebody will say, "Hey, we need a DPS. I got a lock. I got a warlock." And then the question is, okay, what kind of warlock? And so I think people are going to generally refer to people as whatever their primary is. Like, you know, um, I got a summoner. Okay, what flavor of summoner? And then there's also then an additional question: what augment are they running? Um, and as far as like to the some kind of visual indicator of whether or not like if it's a fighter mage or a fighter summoner just by looking at them, um, I'm personally in the camp of at least of knowing that. I understand like some people want that to be not known, but I'd kind of like to know what I'm getting into if somebody picks a fight or if I'm picking a fight. Like,
Uh-huh. So I have another interesting question in terms of character class builds. I very much kind of see them going down the route of synergies with damage types. So they've already talked about synergies with bleeds, right? Steven has given examples where maybe some weapon ability applies a bleed and then your class ability does a bunch of extra damage while the thing is bleeding. I could see them doing the same thing with like fire damage, ice damage. They've talked about enchants that are or like horizontal progression that will change the damage type of your weapon. So you could build into like a fire damage spec as a spell sword, or you could build into like a pierce. I don't know what all the damage types are going to be, but you could build into these different damage types, and your passives, your actives, and your weapon skills will be some like synergistic way for it all to play together. And then you can also make that synergy work outside of individual, like the player. So it's a synergy within the group. So you might build a group up that it is a fire damage synergy. So you're looking for a fire damage spec in people as opposed to just melee or range. This is just something like I am like in my head, I'm envisioning. This is not, we have no confirmed information. But what do you guys think about a system like that?
I think that makes a lot of sense, right? And you would do things like, okay, our tank is built is a fire damage paladin, for example.
Uh-huh.
So they're going to do fire damage and they're going to reflect a lot of that fire damage, things like that. And so we need some heavy hitter sustainable DPS. Versus you might say, oh, our tank is built around ice. We have an ice tank, meaning that they won't do as much damage as the other tank, but they will have a lot of CC and slows and things like that. And you can say, okay, or maybe an evasion tank built around ice. So they're going to do some damage. They'll keep some of that hate on them, but they'll slow them. Okay, great. So we can actually get away with a comp now that is more poison and bleed and dot focused. And things like that, I think will have that. I like that synergy. I really like where that's headed.
Yeah. No, I mean, not to just be the guy over here that's like, yeah, what he said, but literally what Fan. I mean, it's a really good point there, and I think it'll be interesting to see how the enchants play into the augments.
Yeah.
Are people going to choose to use the enchants to fill the gap that their augment leaves, or are they going to use the enchants to further support the augment?
Yeah.
If you're a fighter mage and you go fire, are you going to run fire enchants just so you do even more fire damage? Or are you going to run frost weapons or ice weapons? That way you do a little bit of slowing and you hit hard with your fire sword. Yeah.
I mean, it also goes along with the horizontal progress they've talked about a lot. And Steven has said, you're going to want to gear and build your group for the encounter you're going into. So like right now in the alpha, we have this fire dragon, right? You're not going to want to bring a bunch of fire dealers to a fire dragon fight because it's gonna be resisting a lot of that damage. So it's this idea.
Even ice, it might even be effective. Yeah, I mean, just look at like Pokemon typing. You know what I mean? You have super effective, regular damage, and not very effective.
Yeah,
and I think that kind of scaling is
rock paper scissors. Yep. So yeah, that's kind of how I see them going down the build route, and then it becomes very like that's how I see them doing a counter system in terms of this horizontal progression with different damage types and bringing different armor. And like, because Steven has said, plate armor might do a lot of physical damage reduction, whereas cloth armor is going to be a lot more magic damage, and I'm guessing either weather is going to be somewhere in between, or maybe it's an evasion type.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to affect your armor type is going to be really interesting. Your weapon type, and I think that's one of the things that interests me most about this game is that they are so different, right? So whether you're spec'd one way or the other, and the way that kind of horizontal, because I find that to be relatively horizontal progression as well, right? Some people have disagreed with me on that about weapon type, but are you for this fight? We don't necessarily need a melee rogue that can put on a lot of dots. We need someone a little bit more range that can put dots because you can't really stand there. Now, my question is this: talking about creating your group around the fight that you're about to have. How do you guys think that's going to work? Do you think if people are just going to carry a bunch of different gear sets with them? Do you think that people will literally, okay, we're bringing in this guy for this fight. All right, now kick rocks for the second fight. We're going to bring in someone else who performs better for fight number 2.
I think that plays out in a similar way to, let's say, a world first race versus a guild group just wanting to get it done with what they have. I think we're going to see both. I think you're going to have the super hardcore guilds and the super hardcore groups saying, hey, Fane, you need to run this type of rogue. You need to specialize this way because we need you for, A, M, and Z fight. Bard, we need you to run a summoner with this type of specking, this type of weapon and all of that, and specialize in that. And we're going to run you for B, Q, and Y fight. But then what my hope is that just makes the fight a little bit easier, but the content is still doable, right? Like we don't to necessarily be locked because of your class decision. That never feels good. But
I think to some degree, yes, some degree, no. Like, as I was saying, if you're fighting a fire dragon, I don't think you should be able to just bring all fire damage dealers and still be able to do it. Right.
Absolutely.
So to a degree there.
Yeah, there is the wrong answer. There are wrong answers in life.
But what I was going to say, and I don't know if I should do this right now, but you're not going to be able to traditionally swap people in and out like a raid in WoW because there's no fast travel. You're potentially an hour down at the bottom of this dungeon fighting a boss. Now, however,
hardcore people will have their backup people logged outside of the instance. 100%.
Yeah, but you still need to get down there. And how are you going to do that? As I said, if you're fighting your way through an hour's worth of trash mobs and bosses that respawn, right?
Maybe you're going to be bringing them along as a secondary group, and whoever's not in the primary encounter for boss B or boss C, they're sort of sitting in the previous room, and they're not only your backup sub out for the various fights group, but they're also your crew that's kind of on PvP duty. Like, we don't need you here, so you need to guard for PvP. Yeah. You need to look out for the groups coming in.
And those were the two things I was going to bring up outside of that was the PvP aspect of this. So it doesn't matter what you're bringing optimally if you get ganked, right? You can bring the best comp for the fight. You're not going to complete it when a 40-man raid just comes wiping through you. And then the second thing I was going to say is family summons.
Ooh, good point. Strategically creating your family so that you've got enough people that anybody can summon anybody.
And I just don't like family summons. I'm against it. As I said, I didn't know if I should bring this up because it's a very controversial topic. It seems to have died off in terms of people complaining about it.
Let's stir that pot back up. Let's stir it back.
So yeah, I'm just like, yeah, I mean,
we're stirring all the pots tonight. We're getting Bard with the family summon. We're getting Fane with the monster coins later. Don't worry, we're stirring it all up.
Already steaming.
And I will say we'll get to the monster coin thing right after this because I want to hear this take again. But what I will say is I'm reserving final judgment for the family summon system until I see it implemented because we don't have enough information about how it's all going to work. I just don't see any way it's not going to be abused and become some mechanic that top guilds are just like forcing you to use and abuse.
Yeah, unless there's something like a cooldown. Unless your family summon is like a hearth. Like in your entire family, only one person can use a summon per hour. And if so, all the people in the family are on a global cooldown. Something like that, I think, would affect it. Yeah, you're still going to have to find ways to work around it. but it's not going to put you in strategically a better situation than anyone else.
Yes, yeah. I think the cooldown needs to be a lot longer than an hour. Like one family summon, it'll summon everyone in the family that chooses to accept it every like 24 hours. That way you're in, you get your chance to play during the time you can play, and then it's a cooldown. Maybe not 24, maybe like 20. That way, like it's probably up by the next time you're playing, right? If you're one of those more casual people that aren't playing 18 hours a day.
But even then, it can still be abused. I mean, in one of your videos, Bard, when you were talking about the Zerg, that can still be abused, because one of the things that you mentioned about combating Zergs is not having fast travel, right? Well, let's say you're planning a Zerg. Let's say you're planning to rush. You're planning to do that. All of the family members save their cooldown in the guild. You got 200 people. However many, divided by however many you can have in a family, that's how many summons you need available. And then those core people go to the location, summon everybody in their family, all of them do.
Yeah.
And now you do have a fast travel Zerg, even if they can only do it every 24 hours. But
yeah, that's still a massive power.
For me, the only fast travel that I personally like about Ashes is the scientific node being a maxed out. So outside of that, if they don't want to have fast travel, quick flight points, or or not flight points, but teleport to dungeon location, or like a warlock summon gate, if they don't want to have any of that, then I don't think the family fast travel should be there either. Because even if they make it a week-long cooldown, they're still going to find a way to abuse it in some way. Like it's not realistic, even in a fantasy game. Yeah. Like it's just, I don't know.
Well, and let's talk about that for a second. Like, in terms of these superpowers for these nodes, right? Scientific node, there's going to be an airship, which is going to allow faster travel in between the node, the other metro, if there's one, and the vassals. Great, right? Makes total sense. Economic, you're going to have stock markets. You're going to have these auction houses that are linked to other auction houses. Great, makes total sense. Now, in this AMA, Steven had mentioned, and he mentioned it as a working theory, so this is not set in stone, but I want to know how you guys feel about divine nodes. He's saying that divine nodes will get some sort of dungeon once they hit the metro level. What do you guys think about that?
I think what did he use? Catacombs? Kind of the web of path underground. And I think a key point there is it's connecting to the other divine nodes as well, which that could be big. I mean, if you clear out the dungeon, what's the respawn time on stuff? You know what I mean? Or is it constantly respawning like everything else in the world? Because if not, you might be running caravans through those dungeons after it's cleared out.
I doubt it would be a caravan route.
Now, because I was going to contradict myself, don't worry.
It's like, I just don't see that being a thing.
Now, to contradict that, it's supposed to be some of the hardest PvE content. So I don't necessarily see that be a thing, but that was like the first thing that popped into my head was like, oh, maybe that's a way to do caravans. I think it is honestly a little lackluster as a Metropolis superpower. Like, I mean, if I would almost prefer them to have access to a secret raid location somewhere on the map. Like, they prayed about it and their god answered back with, hey, here's a secret raid location that you don't have access to because your nodes haven't developed a certain way, but through the divine Metropolis, you're able to go in and do it. You prayed for it, the gateway was opened, you're able to go in and do it. I would prefer something like that if it's PvE related versus it just being underground, underneath you. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to contrast. I already know Fane's opinion. He doesn't like this. We'll let him get to that in a minute. I absolutely think it's amazing. Under a few conditions. I think the main thing is they have to get the lore right. There needs to be a reason this labyrinth is only open to divine nodes. There are a lot of ways to do it right, and there are a lot of ways to make it just feel very lackluster, as you said. I think if they do it right, it could be amazing. The other thing I'm looking at is nodes are for specific people already, right? So the military node is for PvPers, the scientific node is for crafters, and the economic node is for econ, right? People who want to play the market and all that. So it's very set out. So to have a specific PvE specialty or whatever, to me, is awesome. Like it goes along with all the way they've split up everything, the Trinity, all that. And I mean, I know it's 4, but it's still kind of like the Trinity. I think it's awesome. I think also, so we also kind of talked about something like this last week. I don't know if you guys remember it. Before the AMA even happened, we were talking about labyrinths that would then interconnect with other labyrinths, and we were talking about cross-server stuff and all that. But like when Hero said that, I was like, wait a second, we were talking about that.
He stole our idea.
No, I'm sure he's had the idea for a while. But yeah, I think it's really cool. I would like to see it instanced as well. Not in terms of necessarily like one big instance. So you spawn in, and you spawn in maybe at a random point close to your entrance of the labyrinth. So there's none of this like people sitting there waiting to gank you. And then it is a true labyrinth that spreads out, goes to other divine nodes, monsters, like just a big like instanced world dungeon. It's also a way that like, it's not actually under the world, right? They can have it as an instance thing where you zone in and it's this big, massive labyrinth underneath. I mean, he's talked about it being procedurally generated, so it's different. He didn't say different every time, but different for every server. And then potentially you do run into other people. But the way I'm seeing it in lore is it's this kind of idea that the labyrinth would have something to do with the corruption, and it's the one unifying factor. So I would say almost maybe even don't have PvP in there. The lore being all the religions come together to fight the corruption. Regardless of your problems outside of this, we all come together to fight the corruption. So that's kind of where I'm seeing it, and I think it's a really cool idea, but it does have to be done correctly.
Yeah, and so I agree with you, Bardic. I think it 100% has to be done correctly. And I don't hate this idea as an idea in general. I think that it seems a little lackluster in the way that it feels very thrown in. It feels like, what do we need more of? Let's just make some sort of catacomby dungeon type situation. I don't think it really has that much to do with people that are doing religious node quests. I get the PvE side of it. I 100% get that like PvE thing. But I think that there's something that can be done better. I don't know what it is. I'm not creating Ashes of Creation. I just think that it feels very last minute thrown in. It doesn't necessarily to me show a lot of stuff. And also let's kind of look at what, like you had said, the economic nodes, those are for the big wealth barons who are going to play the economy and make a lot of money. The scientific nodes, those are your hardcore crafters. They're going to craft. The military nodes, those are your hardcore PvP guys that are going to love everything PvP. Well, in terms of PvE, I feel like the religious nodes in general are going to attract people that want to do PvE, but like via quest systems and things like that. I don't know if then like shifting them and saying, hey, I know you like this casual questing and that's how you leveled up your node, but also at the same time, we're going to shift you to the most hardcore PvE experience ever. I can see a lot of people that are going in and saying, well, I don't even really want to do or am capable of doing the most hardcore PvE stuff. So maybe I'll just go do my PvE stuff, but I'll go do it near an economic or scientific node because I also like crafting. I think there could be something else, something that truly draws people to this. Because now I'm going to ask you, do you guys think that this catacombs that should only be open to the people within the actual node that are citizens of the node, or should be open server wide? You think it should be open?
So the main concern that I have with the most difficult PvE content, if it's locked to a node and you have to be a part of that node to be able to do it, you are now shoeholing people who want to do PvE into one node type, and for the people who actually take PvE more seriously than any other aspect of the game, whether it be PvP, crafting, or economy, you are now saying that they have to go into a divine node. Because if you look at it from the other side, let's say you have somebody who's really into PvP, you can be a part of an economic node, you can be a part of a scientific node, or you can be a part of a military node and still be able to play, the potentially highest challenge difficulty of PvP. Same with crafting.
Well,
but just the idea of, if you tie in-game content to a specific node type, and you, again, the key thing here being, if you have to be a part of that node, you are literally taking player agency away from the player.
So what I would say is, just like all the other nodes, you're not locked out of it, but you get benefits while you're in it if you're a part of the divine node. Not like, game-changing benefits. You can't do the content without it, but just like the military nodes are probably going to have some kind of PvP benefits. Just like the scientific node is probably going to get some kind of crafting benefits. If that is your focus, you're encouraged to play in a divine node. Yes, you can do anything in the game, but this game is all about you can't do everything, and you are going to have to choose between a bunch of different options tailored to how you play the game the most, right?
Yeah, but so I guess my kind of follow-up to this is this going to make it where every server has a religious node to have access to this super hardcore, high-end PvE experience? And it's going to kind of create a safety net around that node? Because I think that's very contrary to the overall scope of Ashes, which is the world is ever changing. The world is ever changing, except for that religious node that is right here. And we keep that one open and nobody sieges that because we want to be able to go in there and clear this hardcore PvE experience for whatever drops or benefits or whatever it gives us. So there's really no incentive to ever siege down that node, because you're going to essentially have the entire rest of the server that wants to do that content rallying against you.
For
an economic node, not so much. You'll be like, well, we want to bring the economic node close to us so we have access to the auction house even closer. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the same with this.
So the way I'm looking at it is, it's actually something I hadn't thought about with that idea of divine nodes, but I think there's ways to stop that from happening as well. For example, making different divine nodes access different parts of the labyrinth or new procedurally generated labyrinths. Just the same way other content is locked behind nodes, you're encouraged to raise up a different divine node, right? Give there something different within each labyrinth, or as you raise up more divine nodes, you unlock like more sections of the labyrinth, right? I think there's ways to do it where that isn't the case, but just like everything in this game, it is a give and take. You don't get everything. You do have to make choices based on what you think is going to be most profitable or allow you to progress in the way you want to.
Yeah. I can definitely see that in the same way that you want to open and close raids by changing the landscape, that you might want to do that with a divide node to experience a new landscape. Okay, I can get behind that theory.
Yeah.
I still think that no matter what, overall, I feel like it was a weak choice for a divine node, and I think that it isn't necessarily. I do hope they change it. I hope that they're thinking of this, but something ends up changing, because I don't think it's the strongest choice for divine node ever.
Yeah, and
I think.
Go ahead, Super.
I think it's about impact. I think it's about impact on the player. I think it's about impact on the world. And when I think about what the catacombs would offer, I think that it's a benefit, and as far as impact for the people, again, assuming that it's not available to everybody and only available to people of a divine node. To me, that's so. I just want to bring it up in reference that where did it go? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I lost it. Sorry.
Okay.
But
Well,
it was something along the lines of like, well, if you want to specialize in, PvP, you're essentially shoeholed into a military node. But I don't think that that's necessarily true because it offers additional benefit. It doesn't offer the highest tier of competition. Like, unless they come out and say that there is a arena that only people in the military node can be in. But again, that's player decision if that ends up being the highest tier arena you can be in. But again, it's purely because it's said to be the most difficult. Do you know what fixes it for me? Is you say hard, but not the most difficult PvE content in the world. That fixes it for me. I'd be okay with it at that point.
I guess the thing is, for the most difficult content, in my opinion, has to be instanced.
Yeah.
That's just the only way it's really gonna, the PvE, like, and that's what PvE players want. So how do you implement certain things instance in the world and then not? I mean, with only 20% of the content being instance, that includes potentially sieges as well, right? It's saying all content is instanced. They didn't say of dungeons and raids is instanced. How do you go about deciding where there's going to be instance content? Because if that, like, once again, you have to have something that is going to be common in the world for your instance combat content, just like you guys said, so PvE players don't feel like they have to do something or they're locked out of something because their server doesn't have it. Like, with there being 5 metros, there's a pretty good chance you're going to have at least one of each and then probably a second one somewhere. That's not guaranteed, right? I'm just feeling like that's probably what's going to end up happening, is you're going to have one of each and then what I'm guessing a second scientific node somewhere across the world that's going to become the meta. That's what I'm guessing.
That's the meta, is like one node of each type and then a scientific on each continent.
Yeah. And the node right in the middle of the map is going to be the econ node because of auction house stuff. And once again, this is going into, like, if that's the only issue. But then now we're talking about content locked behind all this stuff. And yeah, that's my issue, is where else do you put the hardest content? If it's locked behind some node and that's the hardest content, and not every node that gets raised up is going to unlock some instance content that is the hardest content. To me, it just feels like the natural place to put it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you want to really, though? Do you want to put it where there is a chance that it is, even though it's on the server, so inaccessible to everyone else? I mean, is there value in that? Right? Like, I'll even do this. All right. If you're down here, do you want the scientific node or the religious node to be up here? Mm-hmm. Do you want it to be like, hey guys, we're going to go run that instance content once a week. So the day before, you have to spend 4 hours running from one side of the map to the other. Is there any value in that? Is that, and I'm not thinking about in terms of the choices, because I think choices matter, and I think you should absolutely be locked out of some content based on the choices you make. But I'm thinking of in terms of day-to-day player experience. Yeah. Is that going to make a good experience for the player? Because no matter what you want to say about how hardcore or choice or any of that stuff, at the end of the day, if the player experience is bad, they'll stop and roll on another server. They'll stop playing in general. That'll affect sub costs. That'll affect server population, and low population servers are going to feel really bad in this game.
Yeah, well, yeah, I just think low population servers are going to feel bad. I actually did a video on that not long ago, and somebody commented like, "Oh, I hope I'm on a low population server. That's just more things to explore and more things to do and all this other stuff." And I'm like,
You're playing the wrong game at that point. If that's coming from the side of, that's less PvP I have to worry about, you're just playing the wrong game at that point.
I mean, you're just not going to be able to get stuff done, right? Like, if it takes 2 months to even get a node to Metro, and you've got half the population getting that's 4 months to get it to Metro. It's like, that's going to suck.
So I feel myself coming around a little bit to the idea of, hardest content, best gear, whatever, dropping out of that, at least that side of it. Again, I still think that it's a little lackluster in comparison to what some of the other things offer. So I guess I'll flip it around and say, what do you guys think would be a better proposed theory crafted divine node superpower?
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was at. What I do want to note though is I don't necessarily think hardest content means best gear dropped. In this game, I don't think that's with things being craftable and all that. Yes, it'll drop comparable gear, but I think you'll be able to get that throughout the world. I don't think the best gear will be locked behind it. It'll be good gear, maybe different gear.
But the best gear materials will be behind some of the harder content as well, though.
Yes, so but it won't be the only access to it. Like, there's no way they can make that the only access to the best gear in the game.
What do you guys feel about? So we know that all these nodes are going to have trophy parks, where there's trophies and things erected. What if this catacombs, or whatever you want to call it, I actually want to refer to a dungeon. What if it dropped gear on par with dungeon level gear? But in the trophy park, there were things like time to kill, raid completion speed, and various other achievements that were achievable within the actual labyrinth itself. Do you think that that's enough reward? And because I do know, I'm trying to think of, we're kind of framing this as this is the node for the PvE or the casual PvE. I do know that a lot of times that casual PvE is also aligned with the achievement hunter, trophy hunter kind of person.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think everything should have some kind of trophy hunter behind it. Not necessarily, but all right. So sorry, I'm going on a different tangent here just because it's on my mind and I don't want to forget it. What if the labyrinth was open to anyone of a city level or higher? However, the city level entrances, if are either on the further outskirts of the labyrinth, so you have to spend a little bit more time getting into the main section of the labyrinth, or you get less benefits in terms of like the benefits provided while you're in the labyrinth. Would that make it more accessible, more enjoyable? That way people
My quick answer to that is yes, because like the economic node, it provides benefit to everybody who visits it. Mm-hmm. Like the scientific node, it provides benefit to everybody who visits it. So having it available to everybody who goes into the labyrinth from any city or metropolis point, they can enter from there. But if let's say they're actually attuned to, or they're actually a part of the main divine node that this catacomb is stemming from, that spawned it, mm-hmm. Then they get some kind of buff that allows some kind of spiritual holy buff or something like that heals them over time, gives them additional 5% damage, just gives them a little bit of a buff so that they can do it a little bit faster. Because again, I think that's where it was losing me a little bit, is that every other node provides a benefit to people who aren't even a part of it just by going and visiting it. And so by creating the system that you proposed, I think I would be 100% on board with that. Make it more difficult, that's fine, but let us have access.
And I agree with something like that. I think that makes a lot more sense because, we talk about these nodes have a benefit, right? So the economic node, if you want to make a little bit of money, go hang out at the economic metro for a while, you'll probably make money. You still do not have the benefit of the person that is a citizen of that node that can be there on the markets trading on a daily basis. That is always going to give them a little bit of a leg up. Or the crafter that has these amazing scientific metropolis crafting stations who will always be one of the best crafters. So having something like, hey, you go in here, but when you go in, if your group are citizens of the node or one of its vassals, maybe the monsters within have 10% less hit points or something like that for your group. Or you all end up applying a divine dot as you're going through. Damage applies a divine dot. Something that will give you an added benefit so you can clear it more. Because I think that when you talk about this kind of content, this labyrinth may be something that your guild decides to get together and run once a week, okay, in the same way that you would have a raid night or two. But The economic node is something that you can draw and get impact and benefit from on a day-to-day, minute-by-minute basis. And I think that's sort of where the disconnect is happening for me, is that this isn't going to be something that you're just sitting there bashing your head into running over and over and over again. This is going to be something that you do once a week, maybe twice a week, maybe casually with a friend, and then that's it for the week. I'm going to go back to my node where I'm getting a constant benefit.
And I think obviously when they're talking about hardest content, they're still talking about implementing that scaling content, right? So if you defeat the first boss with certain metrics, the next boss gets harder. Beat that boss with certain metrics. And like, so to get to the last boss at the hardest difficulty is different, or like it is on a whole nother level than just clearing the content.
Yeah, and I do
kind of that instanced raid thing that they're working on. Yeah.
And I do think that that's what he meant, sort of like a Mythic Plus system, but it's more of a boss by boss increase in difficulty rather than, oh, hey, I put my keystone in, I put it at a 15, or this other group put their keystone in, they put it at a 20.
Yeah.
So, and I think as far as like the scaling difficulty of it, I think that that's fine. Again, it's more, for me, it's more about access. For me, it's more about, I mean, like I said, every other node provides a benefit to people who aren't a part of that node. And so I agree with Fane 100%. If this is something that you only do once or twice a week, it's not really providing benefit. But to even argue that on point, PvE is a very different beast altogether. And I don't know if we can necessarily look at it the same, to contradict yourself and myself at the same time. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, please.
Nope.
So cordial.
All right. So all I was going to say is, as you're talking about this, Partix off to the. See, guys, this happens more and more the more we drink throughout the show.
So, anyways, as I was saying.
Anyways,
and to your point, Super. Sorry.
No, but as you said, this economic node has a benefit not just for the citizens, but externally. The scientific node has a benefit not just for the citizens, but externally. So I think that having one where it provides content for everybody, but the benefit is simply internal, maybe, like I said, 10% more damage if you're a citizen of the Divine Metro, 5% more damage if you're a citizen of one of the vassals. I think something like that could work out really well, actually.
Yeah. And to me, still, I think it needs to be done right lore-wise. That's the biggest thing for me. There needs to be a reason this labyrinth is there. There needs to be a reason, like, if it's going to be truly PvE and there isn't PvP in there, there needs to be a reason why, right? Like, it all needs to make sense.
Well, and that's my thing with Stuffertons, right? Like, I love. Listen, if anyone ever hears this at Intrepid, I love the cosmetics. You guys can look at my account. I've spent a lot on cosmetics. I've spent almost 10 times what I've spent on my Kickstarter package on cosmetics. Now, that being said, Stuffertons was an off one for me because they were like, here's a teddy bear with stuffing coming out of it. And everyone's like, what the hell is this? And then the explanation was, don't worry, it's a toy that a magical wizard enchanted. I felt like that was kind of a cop-out throwaway answer. Because if that was the case, you could be like, oh, well, here's this motorcycle in the game, and it's just a magical motorcycle mount that some engineer invented. Awesome.
Yeah, we have scientific nodes. It's like you could easily have suddenly machines or
if
whatever.
We can build an airship, you cannot tell me that we cannot build a motorcycle.
Well, why is an airship okay then?
I have issues with the airship as well, to be perfectly honest. But like, it's it's really interesting. I have issues with a lot of the little things in this game, considering how much I love it and I'm just rooting for it. I have a lot of I have issues with the raptors that are out in the world. I think those break my immersion. I'd rather just see more giant spiders. I think. I don't know.
Well, and I think to a point that Bart said earlier in the night, the lore needs to be there. We need to know the lore before it gets implemented, because if they just implement something and then they backdoor the lore in and just make it make sense rather than it makes sense before it gets implemented, that's when you start getting monster coin.
So, Thane, I hear you don't like monster coins. Can you explain why while I go get a beer?
Hold on.
Headphones on.
Hold
Hey guys,
on.
just take your headphones off. Take your headphones off for like the next 30 minutes to 4 hours, somewhere in that range.
Let me say what monster coins are real quick, and then Fane, you can go off here.
Super, I think you're a bit muted.
If I can spell.
There we go.
I have push to talk on.
Okay.
All right. So for those of you who don't know, and there was a video on it a while back. I'm sure you can go on the Ashes official YouTube, find it on there. Monster coins enable players to play as monsters. So like as a dragon, as a big ghoul, as whatever the creature is for that event within the event system. This ranges from playing friends as a horde of zombies to becoming a massive dragon. Monster coin events are triggered by activity in the world, such as node advancement, defeating a boss, or constructing certain types of buildings within a node. They're structured in a way to prevent groups from gaming the system. We'll see. Server messages appear for players in the vicinity of these dynamic events. Drop tables are disabled for player-controlled monsters. The ancients are not going to be part of the monster coin system. All right, so that's like the quick overview of monster coins from the wiki. I'll just go ahead and preface this and say Fane absolutely loves the idea of monster coin, and he was now going to explain why.
Okay. My dislike of the monster token system is broken into two separate parts. The first part is immersion. You're supposed to be in this immersive world that, you're living in, and it's a living, breathing world, and all this stuff's great. Unless, an event triggers, and you click this coin in your inventory, and now you're a giant spider. And your job as the giant spider is to go into a node and destroy everything. Or there's a horde of zombies, and you click your coin, and you're one of 40 zombies that are attacking this node and trying to get stuff done. I think that is very immersion breaking. I think that it's kind of a weird thing. It's a total departure from what makes MMOs, which is your character, right? Now, yes, these events are going to happen no matter what. So from the citizen of the node, there's really going to be no differentiation, except sometimes they're just going to be harder and they're going to act a little weirder. Fine. I do not have an issue with the fact that monster tokens only drop cosmetics. I do not have an issue with the fact that these monster events will allow players in general from a citizen point of view. I think it's just very immersion breaking from a player point of view. And now everyone's going to say, well, Fane, just don't use your monster tokens. Of course I'm going to use my monster tokens. I got to collect all the cool cosmetics, guys. It's just what's happening in my life, right? Now, here's where I think this is going to be gamed, and I would love to see what they're doing to prevent this from happening. There are instances where Super and Bartik are in a node somewhere, and an event happens, and they just message me on Discord and say, Fane, use your epic monster token, use your regular whatever monster token it is. And then I'm going to go ahead and go in, and they say, listen, we really want the cosmetic for this event. We really want this cosmetic. And so why don't you just not accomplish the various tasks that it sets before you? Because it will set some parameters, like destroy the blacksmith, destroy the barrels of ale behind the tavern, and burn down these 3 buildings. It's going to give you objectives to complete. So I then, as a player, can just sit there, let them whack on my body, not fight back, and give them this thing for free. I think that's even more immersion breaking. And I think that you're going to see a lot of that. I think people will log on to, I bet you there will be people with secondary accounts that are parked nearby node. So when one of these things spawn, they can literally go in there and say, hey, let's just make this thing, let's just do it. Let's just get it really easily. I also think that there is kind of a push-pull with that, right? I think that there is a bit of a push-pull where the person popping the monster token might say, no, I want to do the event. I don't mind that the monster tokens are available in the cash shop. That doesn't bug me in the slightest. It ends up just being a cosmetic. But at the end of the day, you are paying money for a chance at a cosmetic, not like you're guaranteed to get the cosmetic.
Loot box.
That is my rant. Rant over.
Yeah.
I think it's I'm very similar to Fane on this one in that the immersion breaking is too much for me. And the fact that the monster coin event, I'm fine with the event itself happening. What I'm not fine with is putting my character in stasis, like he's just standing there in T pose while I transfer my consciousness into this dragon for a minute, or this dragon left leg while two other people have the head and the right leg. It doesn't fit, and it feels gimmicky. It feels like a mini game. It feels like something I would download on my phone if I wanted to play a stupid game while I was taking a crap. Like it doesn't feel like Ashes of Creation. You have all of Ashes of Creation, and then you have Monster Coin. And it's like, I get what they were going for. I get that a lot of people would be really excited to play as the dragon. But the reality is it's not going to happen very often. Once things get leveled up, you're going to need a node to get destroyed or de-leveled or something like that for it to then happen again. I think the whole thing is too much energy in one spot. Like, this is one of those ideas that, like, in my head popped up on Reddit. I know this isn't how it happened, but in my head, it's like this idea popped up on Reddit. Steven was like, oh, that sounds cool. Let's put way too much time and effort into making this work when we could be making other portions of the game work better. So it's gimmicky. It's a mini game, and it breaks immersion.
Yeah, and I don't really like it either. It's just very lackluster to me. It doesn't do anything for me. Honestly, it's not going to ruin the game for me, but I would say if there's one system that we don't need here, it's this one. And yeah,
we better not get Monster Coin and lose out on another system. Or we better, yeah.
100%.
Like, if we get everything that was promised and Monster Coin, okay, I'll choke on my own words. But if we lose anything else, I'm going to blame Monster Coin.
Give me my parlor games, guys. Intrepid, I'm here to help you make parlor games. We'll make them great.
Yeah. Fane wants to win money off of people. Can we have cosmetics involved? Can you gamble cosmetics? Because then Fane will be addicted.
What if you could... No, they wouldn't do that. I was like, what if you could gamble embers? Ooh, but then that gets into RNT stuff, and it gets too...
Well, yeah, I was wondering, like, I didn't know what he meant, because he talked about having a separate currency you could gamble with, and then use that to buy cosmetics.
I mean, that's an interesting thought, right? Of, I can trade gold for another currency, and I can use that currency to buy cosmetics. I think that there should be ways. I'm gonna go off on another tangent here about the login system when they said daily logins, and everyone was like, I don't want daily logins. I think I was so pro daily logins, you guys don't even know. And the system I had already worked out for Intrepid. Good thing okay, here's
how do you want daily login but don't want Monster Coin?
Okay. Well, that's not immersion breaking because I'm logging into my character and I'm not a monster. Here's the thing.
Go.
Here's my hard take. Here's the system I had. I think having to log in all 30 days of a month would be ridiculous. I think that's way too much to ask. But here's the system. If you log in 5 days in a month, you get 20 embers. I forget the numbers. I ran the numbers, but let's just use these for the sake of numbers. If you hit the 14-day mark, you're going to get 50 embers on top of the original 20. And if you log in all 30 days, you get 180 embers. And if you combine all of those embers up, it would equate to about $5 worth of cosmetics that you could buy, maybe a little bit less. And so you could just be like, I don't log in that much. I go to work a lot, but I can buy whatever cosmetic out of the store. No issue. Or for somebody who maybe doesn't have that kind of disposable income, they could save up for a few months of logging in and then pick something out of the store. And that way you're not gatekeeping the store entirely from a subsect of players, but it's clearly not enough to make everybody be like, oh, I don't have to ever buy anything from the store. I can just log in.
Well,
Yeah,
hold on. I'm gonna do something here that never happens in the political atmosphere of this country, and I'm gonna meet you in the middle right now. All right?
Okay, let's hear it.
Instead of a daily login reward, I'm okay with it being tied to Embers, but instead of a daily login reward, you have a post on the official forums reward. If you post X number of times over a 3-month period, you get Embers. If you get, I
it's
just
hard because
I don't
quality.
I don't like it. I don't like it being tied. What do you mean quality? If you just log in and get your 20 Embers,
no, he's talking about quality posts. Then the forums get flooded with, here's my dick pic, guys. Like,
I would rather have that. I would rather have that than a phone notification pop up saying, "Hey, we miss you. Did you log into Ashes today?"
Yeah,
like,
but no.
But
so
I don't have to log in every day.
I would here's what I would say. I would be fine with login rewards as long as it's minimal and there's another way to get it. So you never 100%. Feel like you have to. So like I'm kind of okay with what you're saying in terms of you get a small amount of Embers for logging in. You know, at a certain point, and that's good for people who, you know, can't work or don't make a lot of money but can log in every day. Versus like, yeah, I can go work for an hour and not have to log in and make more in Embers than I can in a month of logging in. But it needs to be it's such a touchy subject. I'd rather just not have it personally.
Well, and obviously, yeah, like I think that's where we're gonna land, right? Steven has said, okay, I didn't know you guys felt so badly about this. I don't think it's that bad. I also would like to point out that everybody that like commented on it or said anything or has ever said anything in a Twitch chat about not wanting daily login rewards, I know that all these fuckers are going to be in every single day. They're going to be logged in all the time. They're going to log in every single day regardless.
I'm going to be on every waking moment that I possibly can be. Do you think I would not want some kind of reward for that? Like,
so what's the downside then? What's it? Let's look at just don't ignore like a cosmetic and in-game items. Let's talk about the idea I had about just a small amount of Embers, not even for logging in every day, but for hitting certain milestones throughout the month. What is the downside?
The downside is it still kind of makes you feel like you have to do it. For those who are completionists, like feel like it's that fear of missing out, right? Like you feel like you're going to miss out if you don't hit these milestones. And that's the same thing with an actual login, a daily login reward. You like you are forced to log in, and like you're gonna find any way to log in, even if like you've got a lot going on in your life. Like
which takes how long? 5 minutes? It takes 5 minutes.
Yeah, like, well, what if you work a lot and you're like out on the job and you're like at random motels or
then you're making enough money that the login rewards won't matter, and if you want that cosmetic in the store,
as I said, in your system, I'm saying I'm kind of okay with that, but it's a slippery slope, and at that point, it's just like why.
Yeah, I get the slippery slope thing, and I get why we're not going to have it. And I know that I don't have the popular opinion here. Vane's always the contrarian. He's always got the hot takes, apparently. Yeah. But I just think that a system like that versus, like log in, you look at it, bring it back to Guild Wars. People log into Guild Wars 2 that haven't played in years. They just still log in every single day to get those little bits of rewards. But you're never going to feel like you're behind. And I guess for me is I'm trying to create a barrier. And we're talking about gambling. We're going to get back to the parlor games here. But I feel like creating a system, and maybe the parlor games are this, where you do not exclude people from the ability to access the cash shop if they're not in a financial situation. Because I think that like most people that are backing Ashes now or have backed Ashes in the past, we're in fine financial situations. But think about people in other countries. Think about people that are kids in school and don't have a ton of money. Their parents aren't going to let them swipe their credit card, but they still want all of these things. I think there are ways to allow them to access the cash shop and not to gatekeep that content behind a credit card.
Yeah.
Well, and what happened to not everything is going to be accessible to everybody?
I don't think everything should be accessible to everybody. Even if you swipe your credit card, not everything's going to be accessible to you. Just a lot of cosmetics will be the same way that it is now. And so I don't see why you change that. And I don't think that allowing people a chance. So here's an example. The hardest raid in the game, and it drops 20 dragon scales. I think that's super reasonable at the end, and use those to make legendary weapons. Do I think that maybe a dungeon that isn't quite as hard should have a 5% chance at 2 dragon scales? Sure. And so you get someone that can't complete the top, let them have access to it through more time and more effort, and let them trade their effort and time in the same way. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to go to work. I'm going to trade my effort and my time for money, which can be converted to cosmetics. If they don't have that option, then why not allow them to have their effort and time in game be translated to some sort of cosmetic?
Yeah, but then that's a slippery slope in terms of getting pay to win, right? I can just go to work and then I can buy this.
I'm less concerned of the slippery slope to pay to win. It's more the slippery slope of this is what I need to do to be able to access the cash shop. Because I really think as long as Steven is there, this game will not go to pay to win unless he has a fucking aneurysm and he forgets who he is and everything he stands for. So I don't see that happening. What I see is it being a slippery slope to, oh, we need to make sure we have really good stuff in the cosmetic store so people have something to spend these embers on, when in reality, we want that dedication to the artwork going to stuff that's achievable in the game through what you said, the hard work. The difference between somebody getting 10 dragon scales from the hardest instance in the raid versus a 5% chance of getting 1 from some easy dungeon is they both require work. Logging in does not.
It requires you to maintain a $15 a month sub, and that's important for the game's bottom line.
But if anybody is actually playing the game to log in for 5 minutes every day to get their 100 embers at the end of the month, they're wasting their money.
Yes. And the counterpoint is, if all those other things are hard work, then why is a login reward so bad? It's not hard work. It's very simple work.
Because it diminishes the work that people do put in. And again, it's less about what the instance that you're describing, and it's more about what I see it potentially taking away from.
Yeah, as like a generalized game theory, for sure.
Right.
I definitely get that in terms of the development. And I guess I'm so
ultimately
confident in these developers, I don't think it'll go there.
Ultimately, I think I agree with Bard that. Oh, I just brain farted so hard. Okay, take it away, Bard.
So which home are we taking you to again? I think that was the joke, right? Got a nice little place in Florida for you.
Yeah, you know, it's great.
No,
just
we'll come visit you on the weekends, Super. It'll be great.
Hey, you guys come visit me. I'll give you your daily login reward of a glass of prune juice. So come on over.
I was thinking like a warm glass of milk right before you go to bed. No, what I was gonna say is I want there to be a very clear differentiation between cash shop and in-game achievable, because it comes down to that aspect of it's not as prestigious when it's a cash shop bot item. If you add in some kind of time factor, some kind of effort factor to that cash shop, that suddenly adds in a whole new aspect to this cash shop. And it makes it like you're more likely to buy stuff with real money because someone else might earn it with in-game time and then hold it over you or whatever. In my opinion, it should be very clearly separated. And as I've said this, I don't think I will buy much in the way of cosmetics once the game releases. I will be like, it's just like, think about it. And wow, how often do you ride around the mount you bought in the shop? Like never. You ride around the one you spent, 100 hours going to that raid every week for that 1% chance of drop, or the one that you downed the mythic boss at what is it, Cutting Edge, and got that mount. Like that's the one you ride. To me, keeping that very clear differentiation is important.
Well, and everyone's always scared of it. I think that's 100% true, and you're going to see that in Ashes too. You might have the most amazing, great, awesome looking cosmetic in the world, and someone else has one that, even if it's not equal, even if it's viewed in general on aesthetics alone as just a tier below, but you had to achieve that, and we know what you had to go through to achieve it, that one's always going to hold more prestige, right?
Yeah.
No one's ever going to put a skin over that armor or that weapon or that mount.
Exactly. And yeah, as I said, that's what I mean by slippery slope to pay to win, I guess. Yeah, I wasn't describing it very well, but that's what I mean overall.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this is the point that I agreed with. I remembered. You don't have to take me to a home.
That's how old people work, right? They remember it later.
Sure. Shut your face.
Hey, you did it to me last week. I'm just taking my chance.
Hey, you be quiet, you whippersnapper.
Get off my lawn.
Oh, I already do that. If that means I'm supposed to be in a home, then fucking put me at 5 years ago. But the point being that if it is this controversial, if it is just not clear that it should or shouldn't be there, it's better to err on the side of just don't have it there. Yeah. And Fane, in the context in which you are arguing it, I understand the point. I don't think that you're just batshit crazy for bringing it up in the way that you do.
Well, wait, I disagree with it crazy. Just not for that.
Not for that. Yeah.
Somebody clip that where I was called not crazy. Somebody, I would like that for later.
Deleting the VOD. Good. So yeah, it's just my concern is what it could be, not what it necessarily is. For your argument specifically, to me, it feels, again, like Monster Coin, it feels like a phone game. Yeah. It's something that you see on, Raid Shadow Legends or, whatever phone game you're playing is that daily login reward. As far as I'm concerned, logging in and playing the game is your daily login reward. Logging in and seeing if you're a processor, seeing your processing being finished is your login reward. Yeah. Logging in and the rate is reset or there's an event going on, that's your login reward.
I think,
and an MMORPG, a true MMORPG, is not for people who can't dedicate some time to the game. So I understand where you're coming from, but again, I more disagree on the side of what it can become.
And I think what it comes down to, right, is what does it add to the game versus what does it potentially take away from the game? Between Monster Coin and between, of course it gets clipped. So between Monster Coin and between daily login rewards, I just don't think it adds very much to the game for the potential immersion breaking and downsides of it. It just doesn't seem worth it, and that's kind of how I feel about the family summon system too. Like if this family summon system is not there, then people play around it, right? You'll wait that 45 minutes for your awesome friend or the friend you're waiting for to log on, and you'll go together. Or you'll go do something else while you're waiting for him, or whatever it is. So in my mind, the benefits from the system versus the consequences in all three of those are just off. So I'd just like to see them all just nixed from the game. The issue with that is the Monster Coin system was promised to a bunch of the Kickstarter backers and packages and stuff. So I think I have some Monster Coin from my Alpha 1 package that I bought a while ago, or my Alpha 2 package I bought a while ago. I can't remember, but if they're going to nix that system, they have to figure out what they're going to do instead, right? They have to be okay, we're converting these Monster Coins to, the equivalent of Embers, because there is an actual cash value to Monster Coin.
Well, and so going back to kind of what got us off on this lovely tangent, having a unique thing, a currency that you can gamble with in these parlor games that can then be traded towards cosmetics in the store. What are your feelings on that?
But are they cosmetics in the store, or are they their own thing? I'd like to see them be their own thing. So it's only achievable through parlor games. Once again, it's another way in the game that yeah, if this is something you want, you have to spend time at it. If that's not something you want to do, you don't spend time at it. That's kind of what I'd like to see, is like its own form of cosmetics. As I said, maybe themed
Like
after like innkeepers and gamblers and that kind of thing, like cosmetics like that, kind of more social cosmetics as opposed to battle worn cosmetics.
Trade in 1,000 of them and you can buy the title High Roller. I'd love that.
Yeah. There
Boom.
you go.
You guys are going to see me 3 months in. I'm going to be level 8, but I'm going to have that title. I'm going to rock it. Trust me.
He's just
Also,
going to be
the
red
stuff
eyed,
like-
just like, I got this, guys. So close.
I'll do a 31-day stream
Hit me.
like Ludwig, but it's going to be just me playing parlor games the whole time.
I think it's about what can be purchased with the currency. Thinking about it, I thought that having it in a way, so if their goal is a pseudo gold sink as well,
Mhm.
one of the things that they can do is they can make the currency purchasable from gold, but you can't then turn it back into gold.
Yes.
So let's say let's just say parlor token. Let's just say the currency is called parlor token.
Mhm.
I spend 1,000 gold, I get 100 parlor token. Let's do a 10-to-1 type of a thing here. I get 100 parlor token. With that parlor token, I can gamble with it. So if I lose it all, I can use my gold. I can take that risk, as is gambling. I can take that risk, use the gold, and then get into the parlor. Now, the only stuff that the parlor token can be spent on is, my opinion, should be that high roller title, a different set of dice. I mean, look at all the OG D&D players. People go crazy over different looking dice. A different cup shaker, a different whatever. Maybe you can buy your seat in a tavern or something like that. Like, this is Fane's seat. High roller Fane sits here. His name's on the chair. I don't know, some kind of recognition. But at any point where you can then start buying cosmetics, or sure as shit not anything related to actual combat. So no weapon, no obvious. I'm pretty sure that's obvious to everybody. But even if it was like embers, like I just see that being another way to incentivize there being too good of shit in the ember shop rather than it being in game and achievable.
Well, yeah, I'm not talking about buying cosmetics from the cash shop. I'm talking about buying cosmetics that are exclusive to the currency for tavern games. It's its own currency. You can buy it with gold. So if you don't want to gamble or play games at all, it's kind of like what's the corner in Pokemon games, the slot machines there, where you can literally just save up money and buy enough to get your Porygon, right? You don't need to gamble if you don't want to, but if you want to gamble, it's potentially a quicker route to getting it. But then, as I said, I'd be fine with cosmetics like skins that you can wear out in the world. And as I was saying, it would kind of be like their own set of cosmetics where they're more like social cosmetics, where you get a nice suit, not like battle-worn armor, but like a suit, what skin, or like some kind of like cowboy kind of Rough Rider saloon skin or whatever, something that goes along with the in theme. I'd also be okay with skins or that are only wearable in the tavern as well. You don't want it wearable outside the tavern. Well, hey, when you're in the tavern, you've got a tuxedo on, you're a fucking baller. And everyone looks at you as like, holy shit, yeah.
I would be okay with that if it required you. So if I applied this, let's say it's let's just say it's a chess piece, for just to bear with me here. Let's say it's a chess piece, but when you equip it, you can't have any other piece of gear on, because I don't want to see somebody in a tuxedo running around in the open world, because that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I don't think it would be like, I think it'd be something closer to like these nobility robes that have black with gold trim and some red and all that. I'm also going to iterate upon your idea, Bard, and I think that Final Fantasy XIV does this really well. You cannot go in and just buy your way to unlocking all the things with gold points or whatever they refer it to. What if you could trade your 100 gold for your 100 tokens to gamble with, And if you ever have 100 tokens or more, you're not allowed to just go and re-up. You have to actually earn it and make it so that when you get those 1,000, you spend the full 1,000 and then you go back buy 100 and try to run it up again.
And that would be great streaming content too, right?
Amazing.
I'm on day content. 30. I keep losing it all. Like,
we're going again. What are you guys doing? We're chopping wood because our bankroll's low. Like, you just have to go back.
Yeah, I think that would be an amazing system. As I said, it adds things to do to the game that is not just directly PvP, PvE, or RP. Like, it adds in a whole thing, a reason to log in, something to do once things have kind of established and you know, content is, I'm not saying in a drought, but slowed down, right? You still have something to work towards, something to do. I think that's a great system in that terms, with a bunch of achievables. And then what I'm thinking of is maybe so a spin on it is actually having, a bunch of games have done this, but having a social skin. So while you're in a tavern, while you're in a town, while you're in any kind of pacifist area, you can display your social skin. So then, like, you know, as soon as you walk into town, you take your armor off and you're strutting around in your like pimp ass nobleman suit.
I like that. I like that a lot. Like some social skins, things that will automatically equip when you enter a town like that. This is a social environment. I think something like that is. I'm behind that system. Yeah. I'm behind that system.
So if anyone from Intrepid is listening, we're available for hire to design your taverns and social gambling stuff. Thane's a professional.
I told them I would design the games for free so that they were like 90% luck, 10% skill based. I will design like card games, dice games. I'll design all of that. No issue whatsoever. It does make one thing that I was really excited about. Kind of, it takes it out of the equation if we do this. I was excited for, like, as the tavern owner, I make a point in my tavern to offer, you know, to have a dice table or a card table. And you go up to it, and I was like, okay, I could wager 100 gold against Super in this game, and we take that 200 gold, and then 10 gold gets taken off the top like the rake, and that goes to Bardic, who's running the tavern. And he could sit there and passively gain gold, but he'd have to make sure that his tavern was the best tavern to come visit. I thought that was going to be a really cool part of the game as well.
Yeah, I think that those systems will create themselves. I think if you have a good social space, those types of things will end up happening anyways. The reason being, if you look at WoW during downtime in the middle of raids, everybody has that gambling add-on, and we gamble while we're waiting for the next pull. There's some nights where you walk away up 1 million gold, and there's some nights where you walk away just down 1 million gold, and you can't even afford your repair cost. But so I think that those systems will inherently create themselves. One of the things that was brought up on the AMA on the stream was, will we be able to bet on the outcome of a gladiatorial battle in a military node? Will we be able? And my answer to that is, well, Steven doesn't need to create a system that allows you to do that. The players will just do that. You have one trusted source, like you said. If Bard is the ringleader, if Bard is the person taking the bets, it's agreed upon that if you place a bet, Bard is going to take 5% off the purse. And if it's winner take all, then it's winner take all. Or but there has to be that trusted individual within the community to do that. And I think if you create the space and you create the opportunity for those things to develop and happen on their own, they will. And that is one of the benefits of Ashes, is that it is a player created world. Those things in my head are just going to happen. And so why even bother creating a system around it?
I'm going to go ahead and just take up the rest of our time for this show with a topic of discussion here. What if you spend those points on the trading card game and you have to buy packs to open up?
I knocked my pop filter off and I don't care. It's amazing. I love this idea.
So for those who are not aware, Super, Thane, and I and a couple others have been talking about this in-game trading card game where it both equates to a virtual trading card game that you can play the game and you can play it in the taverns, or it would be its own standalone system, but also a physical trading card as well, and you'd have codes on the cards that you could translate into in-game. But what if you could actually buy virtual packs with the points that you are playing for, and then you could play for these points you could play matches of the trading card game for those points.
I think it's an amazing idea. I love every part of that. I think that adds a collectability from the outside. I think that adds a really interesting secondary market, and it adds more depth to the game.
It also huge gold sink, right? Because there will be people that only care. They're just trying to make money to get packs for their trading card game.
I'll abandon all my PvE ambitions. I'll stop my guild, and I will be super TCG once again within Ashes of Creation.
Well, and that's it. Like, it just adds more options for different streams. Like, somebody could save up and buy, 400 packs in the trading card game, and then just do a stream where they open them all, right?
Oh, 100%. I would do something like that, like a pack opening. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the one question, and I want to know how you guys would tackle this. If I want to do that in game, do I still have to pay a $15 a month sub? How do I access this part of the game without a subscription?
Well, that was what I was talking about, is like, so you can log into the game, go to a tavern, sit down and queue up a match with someone local, or you could queue into the global, right?
Okay.
So you could choose to play with your friend, or you could go into the ranking system. The ranking system would have to be its own standalone, right? You can't gate people that way. If it's a full-on trading card game that anyone can play, you can buy real life packs for, and then as we were talking about, having a code on the bottom of each card that you can then, if you scan it, it's a one-time use. It goes into your virtual deck, right, or your virtual collection. And then you can play over the internet as well. That's you would have to have its own standalone system on top of that. So the way I'm looking at this is the trading card thing would have to be something introduced at least I would guess 3 to 6 months after Ashes is released. We've gotten a lot of the lore out of the way, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. As long as there is a physical TCG, I'm fine if it starts in the game and they develop it there. They work on it there and they iron it out there, but I would want it to become a real life physical thing as well. I mean, I could pull out 100 packs of Pokemon cards, just sitting behind me. I would want that physical card side of it as well.
And
I think that has to be there because that creates such an interesting secondary market, right? Where, this physical card is worth $1,000. Unless the code has been redeemed, in which case it's worth $150 because it's still pretty rare. Something like that I think would be amazing, and Intrepid would be silly not to jump on it.
Yeah. I think it would be dangerous to have it to that level that you're speaking of, like the Swift Spectral Tiger and WoW, where if you get that, you type in the code on the back of the card and then you get them out in the game.
No, not that. Just you get the card to play with virtually, right?
Oh, but then the game within Ashes becomes pay to win, because if you just buy hundreds of packs in real life, then you have hundreds of packs.
But that's the nature of any trading card game. I think that's completely fine as long as it is only part of the trading card game.
Yeah,
you don't get anything in game.
Yes and no. One of the ways that Pokemon has gone about doing this differently. So Yu-Gi-Oh! In the past, the little serial number that was on the bottom, you type that in, you would get the card in the game. Now, granted, it didn't have an MMORPG tied to it, but you still got it within the game. What Pokemon does is you get a code card for any of you who are collectors, free code card for you. You get a code card, has a code or UR code on there, or and you scan that and it gives you a pack, but it's another completely random pack. It's not the exact same cards or anything like that. So there's still some value if you're wanting to do the online versus real life, you can actually, hey, I bought 100 packs real life, and now I get 100 packs in game, but it's completely randomized. It's another set of RNG, and it basically prevents you from going out, buying an individual card for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, and then being OP in the game, and then you just rack up all the tavern tokens or whatever we were calling them. And so I think it becomes that is a way to prevent the pay to win aspect from real life to game.
Here's what I would do. I would make it far easier to get packs in game than it is to get out of game. So the out of game is more of the collector side and more just supplemental. Like, so yeah, if you've been really trying hard in game to get this one random card that you need to complete your deck, then yes, you could get it from out of game, but it's all very achievable in game as well. Like,
the problem I see is the idea of whales versus casuals. Your whales are going to spend the money. It has been proven time and time again. They will break it, then they will own the taverns, and they will be the best players within them. That is just how it goes.
The thing is, like, that's only if you want to play ranked, right? Otherwise, it's just casual game between friends and people.
Yeah, like, I could just say me and Bartik want to go play, and we run over to the tavern and play against each other because I know he's not a whale and he knows I'm not a whale.
Yeah, and that's just and there's other tavern games too, right? So like, there's a lot of other ways to use your points, but like, and just like look at it, like Hearthstone. Any TCG game is just a pay to win game, unfortunately. Like, that's just the nature of a TCG. You don't have to change that, in my opinion.
So, but even with the but even with the example that you bring up with Hearthstone, it's still RNG. You're paying for the chance at RNG. You're not buying a specific individual card.
But you can't do that in every other trading card game besides Hearthstone.
Any non-virtual card game, you can just buy a card and
right. But again, it's the difference between it going from physical to virtual and not from virtual to physical. That's where. Yes, I can go out if I'm creating a Pokemon deck. I can go and buy the exact cards that I need.
Mm-hmm.
But that is something you sign up for when you play a physical TCG. Again, the way that is the barrier for entry. That is the rule. That is the law of the land. That is what you.
How is that any different from a virtual TCG where you can earn a lot of things, but if you want to, you can supplement it with like your physical cards?
As it is, then I know what you're saying, but my concern is that in my head, the game space for the TCG is a little bit, there can be trading within it. You can spend gold to get a card that somebody has. It's part of the auction house. It's part of the economy. Have all of that stuff be accessible within the game. It's about the difference between dollars to gold versus dollars to dollars or gold to gold. The moment you start crossing that line one direction, that's where my concern is.
But I don't think you'd be crossing it dollars to gold, right? If I'm buying the pack physically and then getting those cards scanned or whatever and then putting them in game, maybe I'm more powerful in game in this one subsect of the game. I don't necessarily think that's pay to win because that's as pay to win as buying a cosmetic out of the cash shop. At the end of the day, the only thing you're going to do with this TCG is play, win or lose, and then if you win, trade whatever points you're getting for winning into the actual game for a cosmetic. So at the end of the day, you're just doing a roundabout way with a little bit of effort of turning real life dollars into cosmetics, not necessarily real life dollars into gold.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I see it going the other way is through gold sellers, right? Bots that are farming and websites that are selling gold for real life money, which is obviously against terms of service. Steven has talked that he's going to be trying his absolute best to keep bots out of it, try to make the barrier to entry so high that you would never even consider buying in-game gold, right? That's his goal. Is he's not going to stop it completely, but to make it so difficult, ban enough accounts that in-game gold, when you're buying it, is going to be so expensive no one even thinks about doing it.
I think what it comes down to for me is that it's just, especially when the example that I brought up with how Pokemon TCG does it, is it removes that aspect, because arguably you don't win anything in Pokemon TCG when you're playing the computer desktop version of the game. Recently seen it as the rank structure for who's going to be invited to Worlds and who's going to compete at the higher level, but which then turns into actual prizes and whatnot. But I mean, even a game that doesn't give you anything but bragging rights, so just taking your counterpoint of you're only buying skins, you're only buying the high roller title, you're only buying more packs, I think it is a safety measure that can be put there, where again you get a code card out of your actual physical pack and it gives you another different randomized pack. I think it separates the economy, not monetary economy, but the economy of the real game and the digital version of the game.
But I think that you still have whales in either case, right? If I really want that super rare card that's super powerful, all that means is that I'm just going to buy more packs in real life and then use those code cards. And even though it is RNG, I can get there. I can spend enough money no matter what that I can get there. Yeah. And I think what it does is it degrades, having it this way, it degrades the value of individual cards, because they might not print a set anymore and you've got the rarest card in that set and the code is unused. I think things like that create an amazing economy outside of the game, or even inside of the game. Someone might say, hey, that code's not used. Great, I will give you 100,000 gold if you send that to me. And I think that's, it just ends up becoming a similar thing. It's just how many steps to get there. Is it cash to card to gold, or is it cash to card to card? What is it?
Yeah, well, it's just like you said, it's not a gotcha anymore at that point. You can actually spend the money to get what you want. Like Super, you've said this. You buy a certain number of packs, and if you haven't gotten what you want out of that pack, you just go buy it because it's going to be cheaper than just going through pack after pack getting duplicates. You'll sell your duplicates and use those duplicates to buy the card you need. And that's just what's going to happen. I just feel like it creates a much better system where if this is something you need, and the nature of a trading card game being pay to win, you can pay and get it, rather than just like how much money have people spent on Genshin Impact just trying to get that one thing they need. I think taking the randomization out of it is actually a good thing, personally. But I do kind of see what you're saying. I don't know. Same with what Spain said. I really like that idea of having a trading card with a one-time use code, where the way you get around that one-time use code being stolen, right, is you can register the code to your account online, but not necessarily use it, right? So it's registered to your account. No one else can take it. And then you can trade that card. And on your online account, you also trade it to them. They get that code. And then you have a very clear line of where this card has been as well. And in that case, you're getting into like cryptocurrency, where you're tracing who has had this cryptocurrency all the way back. And it just creates like certain cards will become so valuable because, like, say Asmongold was the one that originally got this card, and like the original owner was Asmongold. Like, that creates a whole super interesting collection factor to these cards that I just think is super cool.
In-game NFTs, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Super's like, God damn it, guys.
Oh,
I feel like we're picking on Super a little bit here.
Man, I thought the monster coin was going to be I thought we were picking on Fane tonight, but I guess it's on me. So
no, I mean, it's not picking.
No,
I mean, Fane would have to Super would have to remember this conversation for it to be picking on him.
Hey, we'll have YouTube uploads soon. I can remind myself of all the pain.
Yeah.
No, I did not trim my beard.
That glorious red beard.
What do I look like? What do I look like? Fane? Get out of here.
listen, you're this good looking. You can't just let this. I cut the line. We got the line going. We had to trim it up a little bit.
Oh, you lined up good. You lined up good.
I'm Middle Eastern. If I let it grow too long, I get a little terroristy. It's not a good look. Let me tell you guys, it's not a good look.
Are we starting after hours already? Damn.
After hours, let's go.
On that note, we'll hang out for a little bit longer, but we will be switching up to the general chat of my Discord. So we do this after every stream where we just hop in. We have a chat. We won't go for too long, probably like half an hour to an hour after the show. But we do have to sleep and all of that. / drink a lot of water because we need to sleep. Sleep well. I don't have any. No, I do have a little water. But yeah, so we'll be hopping over there. Anyone that wants to come hang out for a bit, we'll just be chatting about whatever, more random bullshit. At this point, we've had a couple drinks, so and then we'll be popping up all this. We have 3 weeks banked up now, so we still have to discuss what format we'll be posting it in terms of if we're posting all the content right at once or whatever. But look out, YouTube, Friday morning, we will have at least the first episode up on the YouTube channel, which let me grab a link to that for everyone.
Go subscribe.
Go subscribe. We have no content on the channel, but go subscribe.
Go look at our awesome banner and icon.
Yeah, we do have a really cool icon and banner. The artist did a really good job.
Eventually. when I was no longer a giraffe.
Hold on. Let me see.
No, do you have it?
I have it somewhere.
No. Oh no.
We are definitely
get rid of that.
Yeah, we're definitely pulling that up.
Oh no.
Where is it? There it is. Hold on. I gotta pull it up, save it, do a bunch of stuff. But we will show you this amazing picture that our artist sent to us. That is just, it makes Super look amazing. I'm pretty sure there's not enough oxygen getting to his brain at this point, and that's why he's so forgetful these days.
True. The beard is blocking all the oxygen he's supposed to be intaking.
Yeah.
No, it's just blocking all the ugly. That's why it's not going to go anywhere.
All right. Here we go, guys. This is what we had.
Oh, anything? Yeah, you linked your channel, not the Two Guys in a Bar channel.
What? Oh, go subscribe to that one too.
Hashtag sellout. Yeah. Okay. What do you see wrong here in this picture, guys?
What
do you see? Oh, hold on.
That's Two Guys in a Bar. Guys. Sorry.
I forgot to do one thing. Apple Bottom Jeans is here, so I have to sing to him.
Oh. What are we singing?
Let's hear it. I'm ready.
Shawty got them apple bottom jeans. Oops, with the fur.
Part's glass isn't big enough. So
every time he.
I was gonna say.
Sorry, every time he joins. It's just downhill. Go. Just go, Bart.
So it is funny, Half Tilt. You're talking about the glass not being big enough. That is something we actually had them change. We made the martini glass bigger for the actual logo. But what else is wrong here? This is like highlights at the dentist's when you're a kid.
Here, I'll give you a hint.
Turn to the side, Super. Let's actually see your neck. Turn to this. Yep. Yeah.
Accurate.
It goes chest, shoulders, beard. There's no neck. The neck doesn't exist, and then the head floats above everything else. That is a long neck. Bart and I have no neck, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, I got my neck extended a little bit. Fane's neck is a little more on point, I feel like. Mine is like... But we got it fixed and figured out. We got Super's beard a little redder. We got my martini glass a little bigger. But yeah,
low key, Apple Bottom Jeans just called me fat. I just want to point that out in chat.
Ooh.
Oh man!
Wait, where did he call you fat?
Man.
I don't see that.
Super's body looks small.
I mean, that's true. We actually had them change that too.
I know.
we had them increase Super's body size because, yeah, that's a little off as well. Definitely has a very big head for his body there. But overall, the faces were pretty good, pretty funny. Yeah. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, I feel like this is probably a good time to end the stream here. So as I said, yeah, we're going to hop up in Discord here. We'll be just hanging out, chatting. I'll probably pour myself one more beer and a bunch of water. So feel free to come hang out, or it'll just be the three of us talking, the show over and all that. We are going to toss a raid out here to Segomod. Segomod is another.
Man, we're just on point with these raids. Every time I'm about to say, yo, let's raid somebody, you're like, you say who I was gonna say. Yeah,
Segomod is another awesome Ashes Creation community member. He doesn't do much Ashes content right now, but he plans to in the future. Also a member of Virtue. So yeah, we're gonna toss him a raid, go show him some love, let him know where you came from, throw the emotes out there, all that good stuff. We appreciate everyone coming and hanging out tonight. It was an absolute blast. I had so much fun. And as I said, yeah, feel free to come join us in Discord for a little bit if you just want to chat and hear more about Super being an old man.
In the stream. In the stream. I got it.